Hello and welcome into episode 3 of the Keepers by the Dozen Fantasy Football Podcast. Today, nerds, we are breaking down Chet. Chet finished third in the league. He always finishes at the top or near the top in any fantasy league that I've ever played with him in. So shout out to you, sir. You do a very nice job and a fierce competitor. If you've checked the app lately, there is no questions. There's no debate. There's no doubt. He's made all of his cuts, and we know what he's doing. We know who he's franchising. We know who he's throwing in his player pool for keepers. So let's talk about him. Chet, if you did not know, is a Philadelphia Eagles fan, but even taking the fandom out of it, he has decided to franchise tag Jalen Hurts, and I can't say that I can blame him or argue with it. He is a true difference maker at the position, very similar to Josh Allen. He just gets so much rushing work, and especially around the goal line. Like when Philly gets to the 1 or the 2, you know what time it is. It's Hurts, it's the brotherly shove, it's the tush push, whatever you want to call it. Opponents hate it, and fans of opponents hate it. The Philadelphia Eagles love that shit. So he had 15 rushing touchdowns last year, which for a quarterback is just absurd. And he's finished top 3 in the position the past 2 seasons. And you only do that if you get you either throw for an absurd amount of yards and tutties, or you have that safe rushing floor and baseline, which Hurts has baked into his repertoire there. He's also the proud owner of the best wide receiver duo, in my opinion, in the league. With A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith, I mean, if you can name a better duo, please comment below. There's arguments to be had about others, but in my opinion, A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith is the best 1-2 wide receiver duo in the league. And that hurts as a Cowboys fan to admit, but it's just the facts. He scored double-digit rushing touchdowns in each of the seasons that he's been a full-time starter. So you know what you're going to get out of him in that regards. They actually bring in a new weapon that we're going to talk about in a minute as well with Saquon Barkley to add to that potent offense already. And if I can try to poke a hole or say some cons about Jalen Hurts or franchising Jalen Hurts, I really can't. Barring injury and assuming health, I think he's locked as a top 5 quarterback in fantasy this year. And he is one of the few that has the capability of finishing as the one. It's like him, Josh Allen. I wouldn't put Patrick Mahomes in there anymore. But yeah, it's really them two kind of duking it out. You might see somebody sneak in there, but I would say the best chances to finish at 1 is probably Josh Allen and Jalen Hurts. This might be Jalen Hurts' year. Who knows? So now jumping into his keeper pool, he's decided to keep 3 running backs, all of which finished as top 12 options at the position last year, which is pretty impressive. Now, the rate at which running backs repeat in the top 12 is not very high. I think there's only 3 or so that repeat every year. There's always injuries that are involved with that and such, and you can't assume injury. But let's talk about it as 3 options here, all very good options. The first guy we're going to talk about is Breece Hall. People in the fantasy football industry are hot and bothered by our man Breece Hall, third-year back out of Iowa State. He was on a Jets offense that was absolutely putrid, completely inept without Aaron Rodgers, and he still finished as the RB4. He got a ton of work in the passing game. Now, to be one of those top backs, you need to have that passing game work, and all 3 of his backs really have that. But Breece, let me just tell you how he ended the season. He in half PPR scoring, he ended 1, 7, and then 2. He ended the season on a tear. He was putting up major points. He started a little bit slow in the beginning of the year, coming back from injury, and like I said, that Jets offense struggled to move the ball. He was really it. I mean, you have Garrett Wilson there, but with the poor quarterback play, Garrett Wilson really struggled last year as well. And now, if I'm gonna say any cons about Breece, I really can't. Again, he's another super safe option. I think Breece, assuming health, is a top 5 fantasy running back in 2024. Healthy Aaron Rodgers coming back, you assume, even though he's older, you assume that it's going to be better than what they had last year. More scoring opportunities. Rodgers loves to check the ball down, so that passing work will probably even increase. He's safe. He's completely safe as a top 5 RB. The second one we're going to talk about is excuse me, is Jalen Hurts' new toy, Saquon Barkley. So Saquon comes over from the Giants. Speaking of New York football teams that offenses were absolutely disgusting, hard to watch, to be honest with you. So Barkley comes over from the Giants. He finished as an RB1 last year, despite, again, the Giants being inept on offense. He leaves one of the worst offenses and comes to now one of the best. Hypothetically, his opportunities for scoring should increase. He only had 10 tutties last year, which is relatively low for the amount of work that Saquon gets. He's an every down back. He's a true workhorse, difference maker at the position. As far as cons for Barkley, my concerns possibly going into 2024. Now, I mentioned how Hurts had 15 rushing touchdowns. The rest of that running back room in Philly last year had a total of 7. So that's a bit concerning. I assume that them bringing Barkley over is they're going to want to use him in the red zone. It'll be interesting to see what they scheme for him, or if they just continue to use Hurts like they have. But I have some concerns with the Philadelphia red zone offense just because we haven't seen it yet. But again, you assume them going out and getting Barkley that they're going to use him in every way possible. And then the third back we're going to talk about, probably the most interesting. I actually traded for him in a league last year. Almost won me a championship. I should have won a championship, but he almost got me there. We're going to talk about Kyren Williams of the Los Angeles Rams. This is another explosive third-year back in that Sean McVay system. Sean McVay loves to use one back if he finds one that he really likes. You harken back to Todd Gurley or whoever it was. The backs are always good. Whoever it is in that Sean McVay system, the one he chooses, is always really, really good. So he missed 5 games, and he still finished as the RB6. That's how good this man was. And illustrating that point even further, in the games that he played, he averaged 20 fantasy points a game, which was second only to CMC at the running back position, which, when you're talking about CMC, you're talking about elite, one of one in the league. And Kyren came close. Running backs, again, have been very successful in that Sean McVay system. My only concerns, if I was going to poke a hole, and my only concern for Kyren is the fact that he only has 5th-round draft capital. So the team isn't really invested in the draft capital, nor the money. He's still playing on his rookie deal, nor the money. If he remains the guy, if he comes out of the draft night is going to be super interesting. If he comes out of the draft unscathed and they don't, address the running back in the draft, when they have 2 third-round picks that they might take a running back. They have one in the second round, but I don't think they will take one that high. But if they take a running back in the 3rd round, that starts bringing into some questions about, Kyren, and because he got everything last year. When he was in, he was the guy. Nobody else was touching the ball. So if they bring somebody else in, that could raise some questions and raise some eyebrows. But if he comes out of the draft unscathed, all in with Kyren. I love Kyren. I think he's poised to be a top 10 back this year. Some people have him ranked as high as 2. But yeah, he's good. So that's that. You got 3 great running backs. I can't wait to see which one goes back into the pool. I'll be excited for a chance to scoop them back up. And that's Chet's team. Good luck this year, man. And remember, keep watching, keep winning.